is recovery of stolen vehicles, amber alerts. If there's an amber alert in Omaha and that camera or that vehicle crosses one of our cameras, we are notified within 90 seconds that vehicle's in our community.
Right.
If it's a lost elderly person, or if it's unfortunately like a homicide we had last year, and that camera system, I will tell you, would have been beneficial to us, and I think we would have apprehended the suspect sooner than what we did if we had that system in place.
Just, Kevin, just on the grants, are the grants the cost of the cameras and annual fee, or is it just the annual fee, or how is the grant money used, I guess, specifically?
Yeah, the city of Lamar's will own no property. We own no cameras. The fee is strictly placement of the cameras, 100% warranty on those devices, and the data of that device we could access at any time.
And just to be clear for everybody, you can't just willy-nilly access whatever you want. You got to have a specific reason and fill out paperwork.
I will I will have a policy in place that officers can access that system. Once you access the system, you are asked A, B, C, and D. Why are you accessing the system? Is it for stolen vehicle purposes? Is it for criminal investigation? Is it A, B, C, D? It's pretty simple. Then we will also do audits on that. So once a month, we will go into the system and we will check what vehicles we're looking for, and we'll see how they correlate with any investigation that we have. Definitely will, Brian.
Kind of a lifetime that the cameras have, life expectancy.
Again, they're 100% covered under warranty. If one goes down, they are very active in Iowa right now. Probably they'd be back in our community within 2 or 3 days to replace it.
Do you have any idea how many communities have adopted that in Iowa? Or?
I don't want to give numbers. I know Sioux City is in the process of adding cameras. I can't tell you how many. I believe South Sioux City implemented it last year. I think they have 30 to 40 cameras. Storm Lake has implemented cameras. You can't quote me on the number there.
Right.
Sergeant Bluff is looking at adding them this year. Sioux Falls probably has 100. The advantage of the system that we're going through, which is Flock, is we also have access to data in their communities. So again, it's an investigative tool. And likewise, if a detective in Sioux Falls is investigating a crime that has crossed over into Iowa, they would actually have access to data tripping our Lamar's cameras.
That was going to be my question. Is I think the more prevalent these are, the more effective they are.
They are.
You know,
I personally hope communities around us would adapt this and put in 1 or 2 cameras a year. Clark, we will always look for funding options, whether it's the grants, more local cost sharing. I will talk to the sheriff again, but there's always going to be some funding available for this.
Thanks, Kevin. For me.
Anybody have anything for Chief?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Fire Chief, you want 2 new people and a fire truck. And then Joe, somewhere in here I read that we wanted to fund one of the fire people out of the general fund. What's the thinking behind that, or what's the purpose behind that?
It's all on the general fund. I was just stating it, that's where it's coming from.
Oh, that's okay.
Yep. Not to be confused with some of the sales
Okay.
tax requests.
Okay, my bad. Okay.
It was cut to 1.
Yeah, we asked for 2.
Originally.
I was hoping to gain funding from the county, which they turned it down. I was hoping to gain a little funding from the hospital. Didn't get that either. So what we have currently proposed for next year is enough funding to offset half the cost of a new employee. kind of like the 50-50 split with the COP grant, but we're doing it through added revenue. So we scaled it back to 1, and we hope in the long run, we're still short from when we merged 5 years ago of what we need, and we're starting to burn guys out. They're coming in on their days off, we're paying a lot of overtime. So in the future, I hope to reduce the overtime costs as well. We generate a lot of revenue. We probably the lowest asking of the taxpayers of all the general fund departments, because we're able to generate revenue. We do a heck of a fundraiser, and the people are very supportive of that as well. So in my capital, the only things we really ask for are the big items like a fire truck or staffing. We don't come in for $20,000 worth of lifting airbags for lifting vehicles up off of people and things. We buy those with donations. We buy EMS supplies with donations through memorials, things like that. So, but when I need people or I need a fire truck or SCBAs like we have on this one, those costs are so phenomenal, we can't fundraise enough to do those. But hopefully through our added revenues and bringing in almost $1 million, we offset a lot of our staffing needs. As I said, I was hoping to come in here with enough money to pay for 2 people. I got enough to pay for half of one.
Curiosity, and I'm not here to beat up on the county or the hospital, but it seemed to me like if Owens has a heart attack, they call Mars.
We're covering about 8 of the 10 towns in Plymouth County. So what I asked the supervisor for was some money, Clark, to offset that when we're running clear down by Hinton out in the country.
That's my point.
And they didn't want to support that, and I don't know why, so hopefully next year they will. Otherwise, we're gonna come to the point where we're gonna have to cut some services. And I don't wanna say no to people, I don't wanna leave somebody lay, but the taxpayers of Lamar's that are funding for this stuff is the prioritization.
And like I said, I'm not here to beat up on any, on the county or the hospital,
Yeah.
but I just didn't understand that reasoning, because the way
I
I'm
didn't either.
looking at it is if Merrill, I mean, do they run an ambulance out of Merrill? Is there one?
When they can.
Okay, well, Craig,
So we have right now,
Akron,
right now, we cover Lamar's, Owens, Merrill, Struble, Seney, Brunsville, and then we also run to Remsen and Hinton, and we assist sometimes with Marcus coming through with our advanced life support paramedics. So it's getting to be a lot. We had this discussion, nothing in Iowa law says really our ambulance has to leave the city limits. Fire, yes, we get township taxations, as you'll see on your revenue sheet for covering the townships for fire. But nothing says we just automatically use the same districts for EMS.
okay.
So, you know, when we're getting outside of Lamar's city limits or Lamar's rural district, I think that should be supplemented by the county. And that's why I asked for that money towards a person so that we could still go down and help Hinton, but I still had enough staffing for a call in Lamar's.
Yeah, and like I say, they've got their budget concerns, their budget
Yes, they
reasons.
do.
I'm not beating anybody up here.
And I'm not trying to either.
No,
That was why
I-
we made the request.
I
Yeah,
wanted the explanation, because
Yep.
I know that some years ago, that if you had a accident 4 miles north of Sioux City on Highway 12, Sioux City was not obligated to come facilitate that accident. Now, I don't understand all that, I sure don't understand it, but it just seems to me like Lamar's is being asked to cover. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and by the way, I commend your fundraising. You do a heck of a good job there. Where I'm very hesitant, first of all, Dave, is I'm not interested in spending loss funds as far down the road. I can't support that myself.
loss funds for what, I'm sorry?
For a new fire engine down the road, committing loss funds way out there.
Oh. Yeah, we don't have to pay for that truck right now.
I know that's what
That's
I'm
his
saying, but
plan.
I would commit the funds, and that's what I'm very uncomfortable with.
Oh, I see, because we wouldn't have to pay for that truck till it was delivered.
Right, but if we order it, we've committed those
Yeah,
funds.
yeah, the problem I run into is replacement schedules when it takes 3 years to get a truck. If If you don't order it now, by the time it's due, you don't have it. So that's where I'm at
And
doing this
I know
number.
I do know that is your reasoning, and that's fine. Back to, I'm just telling you, back to the other thing is, can we increase our volunteers? EMS, I mean, it seems to me as though we're moving very strongly into the direction of more full-time and less emphasis on volunteers to cover the weekends and stuff like that. And
Well, they just don't do it. I mean, anymore, they have full-time jobs, and what we run into is we staff with volunteers, but we have about 8 of them that work shifts. That's all that want to. We've got 28 volunteers, we've got 8 of them that want to work shifts. They want their weekends, they want their nights, they want their holidays. And that's where we run into a problem. If mama says we're going camping this weekend, they're going camping. And they have other full-time jobs. I mean, some of those people are working 40, 60, 80 hours a week, and then they come to the emergency calls when they can, and we appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. And they come to training, so if they make a call, they're up to speed on what we're doing. It's just getting harder and harder, you know as well as I do, to find people to volunteer, whether it's Rotary, Kiwanis, any type of volunteer thing, that you have rules, regs, continuing ed hours and things like that. So it's getting really tough, and background checks and stuff like that. Times have changed and call numbers have changed. I mean, you know, just like the PD, you talk back in 2010, maybe we had 1,000 calls between ambulance and fire, and now we're at 2,000, 14 years later. That takes staffing, that takes people. The request for the hospital, we did 415 transfers last year. In 365 days, we did 415 transfers. So, you know, I requested a little funding from them. Hopefully they'll consider that next year, because the amount of things we're doing for them with our city ambulance, and that takes people out of town for 2-3 hours depending on where we're going. And that's tough for a volunteer too, to leave work during the day. I got some guys that don't want to work night shifts because I got to go to work tomorrow. I can't be driving an ambulance all night long.
Sure.
So it's getting tougher and tougher that way. And so we rely heavily on the full-time people.
Is this the first year you've asked the hospital and the county
Yes.
for assistance?
Yes.
Don't give up.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no, and
yeah.
they were receptive. I mean,
Yeah.
they listened, and I had, you know, on the one end, I had the 3-2 vote, which very well could have went 3-2 the other way.
Yeah.
I must not have pulled enough ears or something, but, you know, we're gonna try again in the future.
No, I
And,
appreciate you reaching out, and
Yeah.
I think it's valid, and I would encourage you to continue to ask.
Yeah, and like I said, we've got enough planned for next year to pay for half the one that we cut it back from 2 to 1. I've got a guy probably going active military for a year. That's gonna shorten us up a guy. My health, I don't know 5-6 months from now how I'll be. I just don't wanna see where we have to cut services for Lamar's. And that's because, you know, nothing says those guys have to come in on their days off, and they come in and handle calls. And I'd like to reduce that overtime, which is what, Joe, 60, 70,000. I'd like to cut that in half, but without the staffing, I can't do that. That would help set some people as well.
On the fire truck issue, in addition to having like that 3-year wait period, if you lock the price in,
Yeah, I can lock the price in now.
because it's not going to be cheaper 3 years from now.
Now, they're saying $60,000 to $80,000 increase next year because of emissions and the price of steel and all the stuff that's going on.
Does the hospital run their own ambulance?
No,
Just so people know. Yeah.
no,
Maybe they
see,
did, but I
that's,
wanted-
that's something they would have to do if we quit doing them.
what are they billed when we run something for them? So how are we paid?
The patient. We haul the patient, we bill the patient's insurance, and we recoup costs that way. That's where I was asking them for a little money, just to say, hey, you don't want to have to, and they don't. You know, talking with Dustin Wright, he doesn't want to buy his own ambulance, he don't want to hire paramedics, he doesn't want to do any of that because that's a cost.
Well, that's why 40,000 sounds rather cheap to me.
I thought so too. And it's a good partnership. I mean, it's a city hospital, it's a city ambulance, you know, we're helping each other, and we're doing things for them that we never did 5 years ago. Never went to Sioux Falls. We take a lot of people to Sioux Falls now, but those are our citizens. I think, we should be taking care of them. That's why they pay taxes. And public safety is a very important thing.
I understand that they all have their own budgets to watch and all that.
Yep.
The only thing you said that I'd push back on is, I don't think services to Lamar's is gonna suffer. Lamar's would be the last.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Lamar's would be the last community to suffer. If anybody suffers, it's gonna be some outlying communities that we can't.
Absolutely.
I mean, but, anyway, those were my questions and comments with your whole proposal, Chief.
And I appreciate it. I want to answer anything I can. We're not by any means trying to hide anything or do
What
anything.
truck is this replacing?
So it's engine 7, that's our rescue pumper that carries water, our jaws of life, our airbags, all our struts for extrication of vehicles, semis, crashes, and things like that.
How old is that vehicle?
That's a 2008. So by the time it gets here, it's 20 years old.
Would you be able to market that to some other town?
Yeah, we could market it, or depending on how it goes, we could keep it and get rid of something else. Over the years, I've sold trucks outright, which is better than trying to trade them in. And the SCBA's, replacing those, we'll have some that still have a little bit of life left. Problem is you can't get parts for them anymore. So once we break something, it's out of service. Well, that's our lifeline. It's our breathing area for hazmat, fires, everything, carbon monoxide. So I'm hoping to be able to sell some of those to offset that cost as well to some of these smaller towns. Because I don't know how these smaller communities are going to afford that stuff in the future. They're so expensive. It's ridiculous. I remember, I've been here, I've been around 37 years. I remember when you get an SCBA for $2,100. Now they're $10,737. So, and that's why I got to come to you guys for the big stuff. I mean, the saws, the tools, some of the other things we replace, we do that with donations, and people are really supportive of that with, like I said, donations and memorials and things. I have not spent anything out of my city budget on basically EMS equipment, other than the stuff we get from the hospital, like the drugs and the IVs. All the gauze, all the bandages, all the pulse oximetry stuff, the blood pressure cuffs, all that stuff is paid for out of that memorial and donation fund. Which, if I had to add that to my budget, there's another 30,000 right there a year. So good support that way.
Just out of curiosity, is it all the ARPA funding? Is that why the pool of fire trucks availability is?
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of stuff. I think it's a combination of material supply and demand.
Okay.
You can't get everything that you need to build a truck.
Okay.
Now that's starting to get a little better, but not much. And when you look at some of these fire equipment companies, there's not a lot of them because of liability that build that type of equipment. So you'll have like a Pierce, where we ordered our ladder truck from. They get 4,000 truck orders a year. Well, you can't build 4,000 trucks in a year. So they have to space that out. Anything else?
Does anything you're requesting in this budget gonna make you stand at that microphone in a year and whine about space needs?
No. Everything will,
I heard it.
well, I'll say it publicly, everything will fit, whether we get a new station or not, if that's the question. Hopefully we get a new station.
Because,
It's kind of one of those deals, Clark, one truck in, one truck out.
well, you said you might keep it though, Dave.
Well, if there's a possibility to keep it, but I'd have to have a new building.
Right, okay, good enough. I
Yeah.
want to be clear.
You bet.
Good enough, thank you.
Thank you.
For me, anyway.
Am I the only person with budget concerns?
You're the only one that brought them up.
Okay. Well, okay, then I've got one more.
Beat everybody to the punch.
I've got, what, then I'm gonna sit here and be quiet.
You don't have to do that. No,
I'm gonna bring one more up. Doug Mazoon. Wastewater. Sat in on your committee, and to be honest with you, I'm not in support of another vehicle, not in support of a new suck vac. I think our departments can get along, and I don't think there's that much demand. And if there is that much demand in multiple departments, then it's like knife and snow removal. When you get an 8-inch snow, everybody's busy. But if suck vac is busy because of the department, we're just gonna have to live with it. I can't justify that expense. But that's just me talking, okay? I appreciated your, so I'm not interested in those two items. I'm just letting you know.
I think the suck vac would be a very good thing for the wastewater, especially that more powerful one. The things we could do for it, the response time we could have for people, but
Okay.
that's my opinion.
Yep, and I appreciate it. Like I said before, I just look at the totals, I look at the, and I'm not trying to micromanage your department, but I just, myself, I think it's something that, between you, Rich, and Scott, get along, figure it out.
And we do get along, don't get me wrong.
I know that,
Yeah.
and you didn't imply that you
Yeah,
didn't.
right.
You didn't imply that
Okay.
you didn't, so, but I just, it's a very large expense, and I'm trying to guard taxes. That's what I'm trying to guard, and yet provide great service, so, that's where I'm at.
Can I comment on that one, Clark?
Absolutely.
We don't operate off tax money at wastewater. We operate off user fees.
I understand
So-
you are an enterprise. I do. But whether or not you want to say it, water to 609 Greenwood, wastewater to 609 Greenwood is a tax. It's a user, but I have to have it.
You don't have to, you can turn it off.
Well, no, you.
No, I mean,
I don't think by city
seriously.
code you can.
But I don't think I actually can, but my
Well,
point.
if
but
you
my
don't pay your
point
bill,
is,
you get shut
it's-
off.
It's an expense to my residents.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
yeah, it's a
so
living expense.
It is a user fee.
Yeah.
How much I use, I'm gonna be charged proportionately, but how that money's spent is still under my watch. So that's where I'm at on that one. I think that's,
And those user fees are getting extremely high.
user fees are going to get even more high. And so, yeah, just my comments on those for now. So, that's all I've got.
Is the new pickup needed to pull the trailer?
It is.
So it's either both or neither?
Yes, I need the pickup for the trailer. I could jockey around and get rid of a 3/4 ton. I don't know if I can take my snowplow off the 3/4 and put it on a different one with the brackets. It's a 12-year-old plow. I don't know what's available for parts to interchange, but I could do that.
I'm not gonna try to put anybody on the spot, but Rich and Scott, do you think it would be beneficial to